Happy Monday, gloomy Monday. We're going to get you excited, and this is going to be interactive, so be prepared to respond, to interact, okay? I'm Bree. For those of you who don't know, I am a financial advisor in town, and most of you probably knew me as the Edward Jones gal. I am not with Edward Jones anymore. It's been over a year, but still getting people used to that. So we did go out on our own as Madren Financial. It's been great, and we get to do cool presentations like this and stay involved, so it's gone really well. I'm going to give you a quick bio because no one wants to read paragraphs, but this is pretty much everything you need to know about me. We can be besties after this. That is my beautiful family of four. The picture is about a year old. When you transition a business, family photos are like the last thing on your list. So the baby is now one. She's walking, talking, functional. My husband's in the front here, Miles. He is the, we are blessed to work together, and it works well. Don't know what his title is, but he does everything except for the financial stuff. So, as small business knows, he wears all the hats, minus the financial hat. Elizabeth's also with me. She is my paraplanner, so she helps with all things also, and is studying to become a junior advisor, so we will be partnering on clients, and yeah, so I am a serial starter of things. I'm very impatient, so if I see a need and it's not there, instead of waiting for someone else to do it, I'll just do it. So we started a Rotary Club. If you guys have heard of Ladies Lunch Network, all the ladies in this room should join Ladies Lunch Network. It is just a social group. Am I standing in front of these? That might be annoying. It's just a social group of ladies, not business related, just social. It's super fun. That's what I was missing after COVID, was just like the social side. So we're in season 3. There's about 1,100 of us on the Facebook group and about 60 to 80 that show up in person. So I tend to start things because I'm impatient. I'm super energized by stuff like this. I love connecting. I love people. If I can connect you to an opportunity or a person that's going to benefit you, that is what gives me energy. The best thing you could do is invite me to go for coffee or lunch and just hang out. Like, that is my love language 100%. Miles even bought me a coffee that literally says, "Coffee is my love language," because it's true. There's nothing bad about coffee. Super passionate about volleyball. I played all the way through college, still play when I can, when, you know, the 4 don't have something going on, which is rare, but still play, still love it. Financial freedom might sound cheesy because I'm a financial advisor, but I don't come from money, so that is like a deep need and passion that was my own like personal goal before I became an advisor, was just that me and my family would be financially stable and well off, so that hobby translated into a career, and so now I get to help other people with that too. And then anybody familiar with Enneagram? Few. So I have a 3. The only thing you need to know is that I'm a 3, and that will, like, you will know my deepest inner self. I have never had a personality assessment or whatever assess me so well. Like, I align with every single thing, the good, the bad, all of it. So if you ever want to know the deep Bree, I'm a 3. All right, so today we're talking about the psychology of money. So we're talking behavior. We are not going to talk, numbers, and it's really going to be focused on how we think about it, how our experiences translate into what we do now, our upbringing, our emotions. They all influence our financial decisions. So a lot of psychological factors are really what shapes our relationship with money. So this is your first interactive piece, okay? There is a workbook in front of you. So this first page is what I want us to go through, and I will ask for some people to engage and share and be vulnerable. That is another superpower I didn't mention. I think the most vulnerable person in the room has the most power. So let's just get vulnerable. I'm sure Shelby is ready to be vulnerable. Yeah! All right, so I want you to think about your earliest memory involving money. The earliest. How old were you? What happened in that memory? Those are questions on your workbook, and I'm going to give you time to think about that. But what is the earliest memory you have about money? As you think through it, there's probably some emotions associated with that memory. So there's some options below that to give you kind of some connections. And then think about how do you think this experience influenced your current financial decisions. Slowing down. All right, so this is the vulnerable piece. If anybody's willing to share, it could be a positive memory, it could be a negative memory, so that's where, might have to be a little vulnerable. Anybody would be willing to share their earliest memory? Go for it.
So I remember whenever we were younger, we would camp like every single weekend at the campground, and my mom would give us money like on the way to the campground of being like, hey, this is what's going to last you all weekend. So I was probably between like 6 or 8 whenever that happened. I would save money or like spend it periodically at the store and like on games, and my sister would like use it all like the very first night. Yeah, and I would say that that's probably still like us to a T.
Goes all the way back to childhood, right?
Yeah, because I would say now like I do it similar with like I make sure like all of the bills are paid, and then I'm like, okay, like what's kind of left. So yeah, I would say it's still similar today.
Yeah, cool, thank you. Yeah.
I also did not come from money. Single mom. I just always remember her sharing like, this is how much we have left to spend this week, like to the cents, and counting it. And then in my mind, I thought, oh, so that's how much we can spend. So never any talk of savings, but like, this is what we have, let's spend it.
Yeah.
So kind of the mindset around that as I became an adult was not ever saving. It's like, this is what's left, this is what we can spend.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
All the way back.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you, you think?
Probably 5, 6.
5, 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, so money habits, you don't think about building money habits in kindergarten, but it is. Same way. My mom didn't count the cents necessarily, but it was like I saw it in, we can't afford that sports camp or summer camp or whatever. It was like the experiences were the piece that I missed out on, and that's what I remember. It wasn't, I never knew a number, I never knew how much we had, I just knew we didn't have enough to do the things everybody else was doing. So, two pretty different scenarios and different ways of thinking about money. And that kind of leads us into the first kind of topic. So I just have some themes that I'm going to throw out to get you guys to really start thinking about how you think about money. So the first one is no one's crazy, okay? Our past, it might look irrational to some people, the decisions we make. And I work with a lot of very different people, and so sometimes I'm just like, what in the world are they thinking? But it all goes back to the lens that they're viewing it through their own personal experiences. So it may seem irrational, but it has to go back to something that they grew up, some experience, maybe a unique economic environment. We've had some very interesting economic periods that people have lived through. Personal histories, cultures view money very differently. As we know, we Americans are very consumer driven, right? We like to spend. We like status and things like that. So obviously, a lot of people talk about the 08-09 financial crisis. If you lived through that, if that was maybe like a middle-age experience of investing, you might be a little more risk averse with stocks, right? You saw people losing half of their accounts in a year. Some of those people who really, really remember it and have a strong emotional tie maybe experienced a job loss at the same time as that. There were a lot of layoffs, right? So their behavior today, even though, we're 15 plus years beyond that, they might still be very, I can't lose money, I'm not going to be in the stock market, I don't like risk, just because that experience was so impactful. Doesn't make sense to some of us today who've lived the past 10 years have been pretty good in the stock market. So we might be really excited and like, I'm putting all my money in the stock market. I made a bunch of money. Whereas you go back just 5 years further and they didn't have quite the same experience. So again, it might seem crazy to you that someone's like, I've got $300,000 in CDs. You're like, invest some of that, but there's probably a reason. There's probably some strong emotional tie. Same thing with baby boomers. Witnessed their parents go through the Great Depression, right? And so they handle money very, very differently, have much larger emergency funds, do not spend money at all. There's a lot of studies that go into the generational differences and how they manage money, and I could talk about that for an hour probably too, because it's super interesting to me to see, and we work with some pretty young people like in their 20s, and just it's completely different working with them versus we've got, I think our oldest client's like 86. So we have a wide range, and it is, you can see all these different habits come out based on the economic things they live through, compound that with their family, other experiences. It can get pretty complicated. Another theme is luck and risk have a pretty impactful role in our money. It's not just skill. Skill is important, but we really underestimate just the impact of chance and luck and like right place, right time, right? Those are things we've probably all heard of. When you think about your money, it kind of humbles you, right? Some of it is just luck, like winning the lottery. You know, you just had the right ticket. Even sound strategies can fail due to unforeseen circumstances. I always say when I'm working with people, like, this is what we're going to plan for, but we're going to add a cushion because life, right? Like, life just happens. We can't plan perfectly. We don't know what the economy is going to do, what our health's going to do, family dynamics, any of that stuff. So we plan because life. An example would be like two businesses that do the exact same thing, start in two geographic different locations, do the exact same thing. One has this tech boom, has a lot of cash flow, a lot of jobs. I would say like Tippecanoe County is like kind of a bubble, right, of like innovation and growth. Whereas some outskirts, same exact business, different location, wouldn't be successful, right? That's just purely stuff you can't control, the geography, the demographics. That could be luck. You were right place, right time. It could be a tactful decision, right? Like, we're gonna go there because of this factor, but some of that is just luck. So it's not always a bad business idea, it's just sometimes luck. Bill Gates, some of you recognize, Bill Gates is in this picture. He fully admitted, he acknowledged that he got lucky, that it was 1968, that his high school had a computer. It was one of the only high schools that did. So is he kind of a genius? Yeah. But also he was exposed and had access to a computer where many, many others didn't, right? So Bill Gates could have easily grown up in a different location and not have the same trajectory, okay? So with those things, we're gonna do a game, risk assessment game. If you've heard people throw out the terms like risk tolerance before, it's basically, we're just assessing like your stomach for risk. Like, when do you start to feel uneasy when you take X amount of risk? How do you feel with that? It's gonna come down to age, it's gonna come down to life experiences, things like that. But I want you to look at these 3 investment scenarios and pick one, okay? So a guaranteed 6%. Think a CD or money market or something. You're just guaranteed 6%, no risk. 50-50 chance to either make 15% or 2%. Or 20% chance to make 40% or 0.
That's a good question.
Uh-huh.
Are we allowed to use the same number more than once, or are these are your 3 options with the same money?
With the same money. Yeah, like if you had a chunk of money and you had to pick one of these 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can't like grade them all 3, in other words.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep. Participation. Who picked A? Anybody pick A?
Is the highest rated?
Yes, as like that's what I would do. Yeah. A. Okay. B or second, I guess. I don't have the second one. Okay. Anybody pick the last one? 20% chance. Would your answer change if this was lottery money? If it wasn't your income, if it wasn't an inheritance, if it was just luck money, right? It was just like given 50 grand. Would your answer change?
No.
No. Some people no, some people yes. Would you take if it would change, if the lottery winnings would change your mindset, would you take more risk? Yeah. Because it was kind of never money, right? It's like I wasn't gonna have it anyway. Let's go for gold, right? Interesting, right? Interesting. We have a risk tolerance questionnaire. We have all our clients fill out, and there's a question about like losing your job and you already had a vacation planned. Like, would you still go on it or not? And it trips like everyone up. They're like, I don't know. Like I just lost my job. I need a vacation, but also I just lost my job. I can't pay for a vacation, you know. So we go through all these questions because there is so much to our psychology around money. It is not just numbers. We gotta really assess ourselves, and I think a lot of people dive in too quickly to I need to invest, I need to save, I need to do all these things. So that's what people tell you to do without assessing like your own sense of money, right? Like the why. We talk a lot about why we want to retire, why do we want to send our kids to college without debt, like all these things. College is another one I see across the board, right? Some people could care less, like, hey, if my kid wants to go to college, they're getting loans, that's on them. Other people are like, I had loans, it was the worst, I'm paying for all my kids' college. Neither one of those is wrong, right? But it's like there's always a why behind why they're doing it. And we need to know that before we dive into just doing something someone said we should do. Another common theme I see is the never enough, the danger of always pursuing more. If you don't have a clearly defined enough, it can lead to a lot of dissatisfaction, right? Just constantly chasing. Again, this is going to be your own measure of success, and it's not always a money number, right? So really think about what does success look like to you. That could be having 6 weeks vacation a year. You want to donate $1 million over your lifetime. You never want to miss your kids' school sports events. It doesn't have to be money, right? Success doesn't have to come down to a dollar figure. So this is Sam Walton, obviously the Walmart Sam's founder. Despite being one of the wealthiest men in the world, he drove an old pickup truck and stayed in the same like modest house for the majority of his life because that was enough for him. You know, it didn't matter how many millions of dollars he had. He liked his truck, simple life. That was enough. And for some people that's not, but that's why you have to define your own enough. So this is another thing in the workbook that I want you to consider on the next page. So I tried to do it one page per so you guys wouldn't cheat and look to the next answer, you know, because we all do that. We always look to the next thing. So think through these couple sentences here. I would feel financially content if I had how much in saving and a monthly income of how much. Or probably, I'm not going to ask you to share because that can get pretty personal, but we'll probably have some widely different answers in this room. I ask a lot when people have money in the bank, I'm like, when do you feel like you have zero? Everyone has a different zero. I have some clients who have 70 grand in the bank that they will never do anything with because that's their like, if I have 65 grand, I have nothing. I have people who have $200 in the bank and they're like, I don't have anything when I hit zero. You know, everyone has a different zero in their mind. So what makes you feel secure when you have savings of how much, monthly income of how much? And you could even take it a step further to investments of how much.
Bree, do you recommend doing this? I mean, I know personally, but through a business perspective, well, if you're the only person, like, which would you say to focus on?
Yeah, I think you have to define your personal first, and then take it a step further to the business, because you can control your personal finances a bit more than your business finances. You don't have to have these answers today, but this will at least get you started to think through that. And then obviously, if your current situation does not align with what you say that you need to feel secure, there are some changes you can make. You could quit your job. You could find a different job or change careers. Maybe it's not realistic that you only work part-time because you want to only work 30 hours a week, but maybe you can find a hybrid position, or do some freelance, some consulting, something to supplement, something to give you a little more of that balance you're looking for. So there's a couple, again, thoughts to keep you going as you start thinking through what is your personal enough statement. And all of these themes, like, you could spend a month on each theme. So we're going through a lot of topics today, but they're all really good points that I wanted to at least plant that seed in your mind that you can go back to later to kind of go deeper with. So like I said, we work with a lot of a wide range. Young, in their 20s. I think our youngest client was 18 and she just turned 18. 18 all the way up to 86, right? A wide range of clients. Every new client we bring on, we talk about compounding. It doesn't matter what age you are. So it's that theme of small actions plus time is big results. So if you've heard of compounding, I might be beating a dead horse here, but like, I can't talk about it enough. It's so important. It's amazing what it can do. Patience being a key thing that I said I'm very impatient, so this is a hard one for me, but I am very motivated and driven. So like when it comes to investing, like I put it in, but I definitely don't like waiting, so I fight my own self on that one. I want like the returns to happen quickly. But the exciting piece, like I said, don't come from money. So when I became an advisor in my early 20s, it was really easy for me to, like, this was my life, right? Like I was ingrained in this. So I didn't start with investing much. We didn't have much. We had our first kid when I was 24 when I first started. So we didn't have much extra to go around, but we did what we could. And 8 years later, like, we're seeing the effects of it, right? So this chart, 2 reasons I include it. I love this chart. I use this with my clients in the appointments. As you can see, the first 10 years, the blue here is the amount you put in, the orange is the growth. So the first 10 years, you don't see much of a difference, right? The majority of that is on you. Like the blue, what you put in, is the majority of your money. But as you get up to 20 years, and 30 years, and 40 years, that orange growth is significant. And that's what I want, is for people to start early so that they put in that blue amount, but their total investment is the blue plus the orange, right? Everyone's heard of Warren Buffett before. Everyone knows the Warren Buffett story. But does anybody know how young he was when he made his first stock purchase?
Was he 18?
Nope.
16.
Nope. Younger. 8. Close. 11. He was 11 when he made his first stock purchase, and he made the majority of his wealth after he was 50. So 40 years. So on this chart, right, it took 40 years for it to explode. When you start that young, there's so much potential. There's so much potential. So we talk a lot about that. Another couple of charts I show in most of my appointments. A lot of people, like what I just mentioned, they don't have thousands of dollars laying around they can just throw into things. So this example is someone starting at 25, doing $5,000 a year for 10 years and stopping. So they did $50,000 of their own money is what they put in. And then they stopped. They literally never put anything else in. The orange investor started at 35. So they started 10 years later, did the same amount, $5,000 per year, for 30 years. So blue investor put in 50 grand. Orange investor put in 150 grand. Orange investor still never caught up to the blue. So I talk a lot about be aggressive with your savings and investing, not like from a risk standpoint, but from a dollar standpoint. Be aggressive as early as possible, because you can take your foot off the gas later and still pan out better. But most people do the opposite. They're like, I'm in my 20s, everything's expensive, which I get. I totally get it. We had kids through our 20s, we had no money. But do it now and be aggressive, because unless you want more of your own, right? I want less of my money to go towards my net worth. I want more growth, right? So if you want that compounding effect, you've got to do it early. That's all it is the amount of time. We talk a lot about budgets, cash flow. That is what drives your savings, is your cash flow. So if someone says, hey, I could probably do like $100 a month, I always challenge that and say, what does 150 look like? And if they're like, oh, I could probably do it, don't like it, that's the perfect amount. Like you want to be slightly uncomfortable. If I say 200 and you're like, holy cow, like no, like that's super uncomfortable, that's too much. We don't want to do that. We don't want to push it so much that you can't go get gas because like you put everything in your investments. But you don't want to just do what's comfortable because again, the more we do now, you can have more comfort later. That whole like sacrifice piece of like sacrifice for a year or two, be really disciplined, and then let off the gas. This chart over here is, a lot of people ask like, well, how long? Like, what are we looking at till my money's growing? So the rule of 72 is super easy calculation. You take 72 divided by the interest rate you expect, and that's how long it takes to double your money. So right now, that 4% number, money market CDs are in that 4 to 5% range. It will take you 18 years for that CD to double, okay? Versus the stock market averages about 8%. It'll take you 9 years to double. Okay, so we'll talk about opportunity cost here in a little bit too, and it's like, yeah, we do like that 6% guaranteed rate of return, but if we're willing to take some risk and get a 12% rate of return, our money will double quicker, right? So when we're talking about risk, a lot of it does come to age and time horizon and all that stuff, but we always have to realize we say yes to 4%, we're saying no to potential. I can never guarantee, right? But we are saying no to a potential quicker growth. Okay, another one I see a lot. Getting wealthy versus staying wealthy is phenomenally different. Different skills involved. Most people don't do both well, unfortunately. Especially if they come into wealth quickly, whether it be an inheritance, lottery, something like that. To get wealthy, you're gonna be taking risks, you're gonna be optimistic, you're gonna be opportunity focused, right? Growth focused, not the guarantee. You're gonna be like, what's the potential? I'm growing the wealth. Versus you already have the wealth, that's when we need to actually hone it in a little bit more, be a little more humble. A little bit of fear is actually a good thing, a little bit of paranoia, like that's good. We want healthy amount though, not like a crazy giving yourself heart attacks because you're freaking out about something. But to stay wealthy, you can't spend beyond your means, right? Even though you have more money than you've ever had before, it doesn't mean to just go blow it. That's how you lose the wealth. So I see a lot of people, especially inheritance is the most common one I see. They come into a bunch of money and it just goes. Like it's extra money. They didn't plan for it to be like, okay, I got this, let's continue investing it, or let's be smart with it, start a business, real estate, like whatever it may be. Do something that continues that growth versus just spending it. So my favorite, I don't know, I might have planned to tell this story later, but I'm going to tell it now. One of our top clients is a teacher, and I mean, he just invested early. He invested in the 80s and 90s and was disciplined, didn't spend above his means, had a good life, and now has more money than he knows what to do with, multiple millions. He was a teacher. I'm married to a previous teacher, so I can say teachers are underpaid. I know. And he was just disciplined. He just consistently invested. Most of his wealth came from one investment that he just threw 10 grand in and never touched it. And it just grew to over $1 million in one investment. And it's because he did it for 40 years. So that chart I showed earlier, he hates the taxes on it now. But, you gotta pay money to make money. But that's like my favorite story. Is like he's just a normal person. No one would expect him to have millions of dollars. If you saw him in this room right now, you'd have no idea it was him. He's frugal. He tells us all the time about the trips he goes on for free because he's like really big into all the ways that like he could pay for any trip he wants. He has one kid. That kid's gonna be so spoiled at some point. Like no one would ever know. I actually know the lottery winner here in town that won a few years ago. I actually know the advisor who had that client, and it was really sad to see the amount that they invested net of the lottery winnings. And it's like that could have been a life-changing amount, and it was quickly gone because again, they don't go into it with that mindset of what can this money do for me for my lifetime. It's like, what do I want now? We're very now driven. So outside of just what can money do for you again now versus later, there's also a trade-off with the way we think about money and freedom. So this is another one I want you to think through. Path A, you've got $200,000 salary, you work 60 hours a week, you get 2 weeks vacation, and you've got a nice prestigious title like a VP or C-suite or something like that. Path B, 85 grand, but you only work 35 hours a week, you get 6 weeks vacation, and you have a flexible work location. Which one would you choose? How many chose A? Raise your hands. Ooh, nobody chose A. B, so everyone chose B? That'd be me. I can survive on 85. You could not pay me to work 60 hours a week. I've never done it. I know everyone says like, oh, business owners, you could not pay me to work 60 hours. I wouldn't do it. I can't, I have 4 kids. I couldn't do it if I wanted to. Yeah, so there are trade-offs where the money, that doesn't make sense, right? If I hadn't put anything else on there, if I just put, do you want 200 or do you want 85? Who'd pick 85? Nobody picked 85. He'd be like, if I'm doing the same thing, I'm gonna take the 200,000, absolutely. But those are things that like, all the other 3 in there, the vacation, the hours, the flexibility, that's worth more than the dollars, right? So I would challenge you to reframe your purpose for money and view it as a tool. Money is the tool that allows you to gain control over your time. The ability to do what you want, when you want, I'd say is way more important than the amount of dollars you make, right? I have a client right now. She's a corporate lawyer. She makes really good money and feels trapped because she has no control over the systems or literally everything to how they bill, to what hours, what cases, all the things she's doing. Versus a freelance writer who, very similar numbers, like attorneys on the higher end of what I just showed you, and then about 80 grand for the freelance writer, and she's extremely happy. Like great balance, you know, she's able to work remotely, she can travel, she gets time with her kids, and she does have some more intense kid needs as well, and she's able to have that flexibility. So again, like would we rather be like super stressed, overworked, going through burnout, all those stuff for more money, or is it just a tool? A lot of things too, like you can outsource if you do have that flexibility where you've got that cushion of excess. Get the housekeeper, get someone to mow your lawn. I think controlling your time, being more present with your kids, things like that, that's worth the money, right? A lot of times I have people think through like what's their hourly rate. So some of you might be hourly or have a salary, some of you might be commission, there's a lot of different pay structures, but if you don't have like a guaranteed set rate, like what is your hourly, right? And if you can pay someone to mow your lawn for less than your hourly rate, that's a win. Right? Or if you just hate dishes, like me, pay someone to do them and love your life a little bit more. If I could have someone come every day and do dishes.
Yeah, when are we gonna do
When are
that?
we gonna do
What are you talking about?
that? He's like, sign me up. That's probably what I complain the most about is dishes. So again, I challenge you to just rethink, like money is not a means to an end, it is a tool. It is a tool to get you to that balance. I talked a little bit earlier about like status versus wealth. So again, a scenario here. You could have a $100,000 luxury car and a $300,000 house, or a $20,000 reliable car. I don't know if that's realistic anymore. Can anybody buy a $20,000 car? Yeah, maybe not a new one. And a $380,000 house. Same amount of money, but which would you prefer? I'm not going to make you answer that one. But it's interesting, again, just to self-assess, like the why. If you chose the luxury car over the reliable car, why? Is it because you love cars? And some people do, right? It's just like cars are my thing, I love them, great. No one judge, like it's just a self-assessment. Or is it because you want people to notice, right? Is it because, well, everybody else has these fancy cars, everybody else has the designer purse, everybody else is traveling? Is the motivation internal because you love those things? My best friend loves things. She's into designer everything. She truly loves them. Good for her. I don't care. You'll never see designer anything on me because I don't care. So if you love it, great. But if you don't, you're doing it for other people, I would say you're not using your money to your highest purpose. Like you're using it for other people. And they don't notice. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I never tell people how to spend their money. Their money's their money. I'm going to tell you the most optimized way to use your money to get what you want, what you truly care about, but we had somebody who spends like over $1,000 a month dining out. Apparently that was a one-off, but I was like, this is insane, I've never seen this, but okay. You know, use your money how you want to. Everybody knows Mark Zuckerberg, right? The man who wears t-shirts for presentations. He wears the same outfit every day. Are we gonna not listen to him because he's in a t-shirt? I'm pretty sure I would still show up to listen to him speak because he's smart and knows what he's doing and did something innovative. He could be in a suit or a t-shirt, I would still show up. And I think that's, again, this perception of, he goes all the way down to he wears the same thing every day just to free up his mental capacity to make higher level decisions. I warn people all the time, I've warned Liz before, I'm like, I might wear the same thing 2 days in a row. No one will know. We don't have clients in back-to-back days, she'll know, but it's one less decision I have to make, right? Capsule wardrobes, right? All the ladies, it's all about. So, again, just like, I think we get in our own heads about hyping ourselves up, like we have to be on people's same levels and match them or surpass them for this like status piece. And at the end of the day, is that really that important? I don't know. And I'm probably getting really like wordy, so I'm probably gonna fly through the last one so we get you out on time. But essentially, if you read this book, Millionaire Next Door, wealth is what you don't see. It's invisible. The wealth you do see means they don't have it, right? They spent it. The wealth you don't see, I say it all the time, I wish people's bank account balances was broadcast on their foreheads. Because everyone comes in and is like, well, that person has like a house and a car and I'm still renting and you know they have this and they're going on all these trips and it's like that's what you see and I'm like, show me their 401k. Show me their bank account. Because the amount of debt I see is insane. So much debt out there. So I would love for people to switch the mindset of like, I have invisible wealth. That's how you actually have wealth. I hit on this a lot at the beginning, the importance of saving. Saving is the foundation, so be aggressive with that saving. And then I don't let people come in and just start investing with us unless they have emergency savings. Like you just have to. The life happens. Like you have to have emergency savings first and then we'll invest. We had someone we met with in July and we're gonna meet back up with her in December because she wasn't there yet. Like it's not worth it. You have to have the savings. To hit on the compounding again, these early years, for this $10,000 to go to $100,000 took almost 8 years. But to go from $600,000 to $1 million, so $400,000 of growth, only took a little over 6 years. It's again that time factor. We have to be disciplined and aggressive early to get to those massive numbers. Unless you want to save, if you want all your savings to be your own money, I want it to grow though. Finding your balance. Financial decisions are not always just rational. I mean, there's life, there's emotions, there's all the things. We had a client come in who had 40 grand in debt, who him and his wife were just freaking out about it. And I would have never guessed. Again, like, they live a modest lifestyle, good life, but like nothing crazy. I'm like, 40 grand in debt, and it's like credit card debt. Like, it's high interest rate debt. And they're like freaking out. He has $1.5 million in his 401k. And I never recommend this, and this is not me saying to do it, so talk to me if you're interested in that, but it's like, take it out of your 401k. You've got $1.5 million in your 401k, but you're stressing about 40 grand of debt. And we did it a very tax efficient way, and he will refund that in no time, but it was that interest rate snowball was insane, and again, just the stress level him and his wife were under, not worth it. So it's not always the rational thing is the best way. Talked about this earlier, planning for the unexpected. There will inevitably be surprises. There are big companies like Apple and Microsoft who have really high cash balances, and they get a lot of criticism about the amount of cash they keep on hand. It was essential for those companies during COVID. If they had not had that, and we went into this drastically changing environment, those were two companies that did very well during that, despite competitors, because they had it available. The best laid plans, something will always happen. It will always happen. So I am a worst case scenario planner. We plan for failure. It's like worst case, this happens. Best case, it's way better. You know, icing on the cake scenario. So, you know, if we're planning on, hey, we're going to take like a 4% distribution rate in retirement, if that's like our safe rate, let's actually plan to take 3. That way, if you need 4, great, we have it, but let's take 3% so that we can build up that cushion to be more resilient. Shameless plug, working with financial advisor will help you plan for this room for error, just saying. And you're gonna change over time, right? Not just, we all expect, the life changes of like aging. We expect we're gonna have different phases with kids and with careers and things like that. But I also see people change, just values change, prioritizing all these different things that we've gone through today changes with time. So we don't really, I'd never say like, let's put together a financial plan. I say like, let's put together a strategy to get you work optional, because retirement's also very different these days. You might work part-time, you might phase out slowly, you might do some consulting on the side. So let's get you work optional as quickly as possible so that when you're ready, you can make that decision. Hit on this a little bit earlier too, nothing's free. So that opportunity cost, that everything has a price. And I would say no decision is a decision. So I most commonly see people not know what to do, so they don't do anything, and that is a decision. And that is the opportunity cost of, I kept my 401k in cash because I didn't want to lose anything. Or I never invested because I didn't know what to do. Like, I know I should, but I didn't know what to do, so I just kept it in savings. All of that has a cost. The lost cost of the growth, or maybe it's a tax efficiency thing. We could have had some pre-tax money being socked aside instead of just paying the IRS an extra 20 grand a year. There's a lot of ways we can plan and be more efficient and make good decisions. And that's what I'm here. I educate, guide, and counsel my clients on all of those decisions throughout life. So at the end of your workbooks, I am big into action. So there is an action plan. I would love for everyone to take 10 minutes some point this week, hopefully today, hopefully right after this, but to actually put this stuff into action. If there were some things that popped up that piqued your interest, or again, your ideals didn't align with your current situation, take the 10 minutes to take that self-reflection and go through it and assess your why, assess your motivations. If you need help, thinking through some things, or how to change behaviors, because that's really hard too, right? If we've gone 30 years with the same behaviors, how do we change those? I talk a lot about mind tricks. We have to trick ourselves to be able to change those things. So reach out to me. It really has little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave with money. It's a behavior. So all of these principles work together. We want balance. We want something that we can be consistent with, and something you can really own, right? Something that you're like, yep, that's mine, I own it, I'm on board. We want you confident. We don't want you just doing things because you should. We want you doing things because you understand why and your ultimate goal. So take some time to fill out your action plan. I know we're really close to time, so I'll be here if anybody has questions. But I hope it was helpful just to get you thinking through some different ways to think about money. And we can obviously go a lot further. This was based on the book by Morgan Housel, Psychology of Money. So if you want a deeper dive into all these kind of themes, I left a few out too, because there's just a lot in that book. But that's a really good book I'd recommend if you want to dive deeper.
Can you go back one slide?
Go back when? Yeah. 2?
I guess it was 2.
Not leaving room for
Bring it up.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'll be around today. I'm out and about all the time. Feel free to reach out if you guys need anything. Happy to chat. Lunch or coffee, ideally.
Thank you.
That was really good.
Good. Good. Happy to help.
I like the worksheets.
Yeah. Can't put you to sleep. I just talk all the
Oh,
time.
good. These are all good questions to think about.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Um,